All right, so in the second part, we're gonna start to talk about the waveform and what we're gonna do to it. So on the screen here, I'm in Adobe Audition again. I'm in Adobe Audition, and what I've already done is I've already recorded the voiceover that this project calls for. So you're gonna have to forgive the fidelity of this. So I'm actually recording the laptop and the Audition through Zoom, so the audio coming through the computer might not be as forgiving, but that's okay. For our purposes, it's gonna be okay to be able to kind of listen to, because you'll just kind of get the idea of what I'm doing. But basically, we have the audio form here, we have the waveform here, and I'm in my bedroom, by the way, so this is great. Coming to you live from the bedroom. It's okay. So there's two things that I'm gonna do to this waveform on the Audition screen. All right, and these are two things that are really easy for anyone to do. Just a beginner starting off, I think this is a good thing. I think even on the professional level, I think these are two things that you can use almost with every project. I use these two things for almost every voiceover that I actually do. So that being said, the two things, and I'm going to scare you with a couple of big terms if you're not familiar: multi-band compressor and a hard limiter. Those are the two things. Again, don't let that scare you. You don't really have to have a great understanding of them to be able to use them effectively, because really you're just going to be kind of going through the process with Adobe Audition or with whatever software you're using, and just using your ears for the most part. Okay, and that being said, like, I'm not going to get too much into the technical side of it, because quite honestly, I don't have a terrific mastery of the knowledge behind these two things. But for the most part, I'll give you the base description here. A multi-band compressor. Let's think about a compressor. So a compressor basically takes your audio level, and it kind of takes and it kind of raises the valleys or the low points in your waveform. Kind of does a little bit of that, but it also kind of provides sort of a threshold for the peaks, or for the lattice points of your waveform. So while it's raising these, it's also kind of starting to squash these. That's kind of the idea of a compressor. And then a multiband compressor actually kind of combines that with kind of EQ. It's kind of a combination of compression and equalization together. So basically, it's going to look at four, in Adobe Audition anyway. It's going to look at four bands of frequencies to compress. It will make sense once we get into it. Again, that's all. If you want to find out more about compressors and multiband compressors and EQ and equalization, look somewhere else. We're not getting into that today. We're just going to go through it. So let's go to Audition over here, and the multiband compressor is under Effects and Amplitude and Compression. And then down here, about halfway down, you'll see multi-band compressor. So click on that, and it's going to open up this scary looking screen right here. Okay, don't be freaked out by this, because we're not going to use a lot of these buttons and stuff. We're really going to focus on the sliders over here that can move up or down like that. All right, so again, talking about the different frequency bands, this is it's going to actually compress the different bands of frequencies. So just kind of a little history lesson here. The human ear has been shown to distinguish approximately 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. That's kind of what we can hear within our hearing frequency spectrum. Most people can't hear the very low part of that or the very high part of that. I personally cannot hear really too much above 15 or 16K. All right, but that's just kind of the range that you usually see, is 20 hertz to 20,000. So obviously the very low things are going to be your really bassy noises, your rumbling, your the very low stuff that you would hear on a subwoofer. And even, I guess, subwoofers technically get lower than that. Anyway, doesn't matter. All right, so we have here the first, if you look up here on the grid, the first band, I suppose, that we're going to be compressing is from 0 all the way to 100. Okay, the second band is going to be around 100 or so all the way up to 1K. And then we have 1K up to about 10K, and then 10K plus. So that's kind of what we're going to be looking at here. So the first thing, I'm going to walk you through this very simple process. And again, use your ears. Trust your ears. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to Adobe Audition on the presets. This is very convenient. There is a broadcast preset. So click that. You're going to see all these things change. All right, so this is the standard broadcast preset. So let's come down here. We're going to click the preview button, and we're just going to kind of listen. So let's hear this.
And giving you the chance to win $20,000 cash. Manweiler Chevrolet, Northview Nursery, and...
Okay, so right off the bat, I'm noticing over here on my output gain that it's coming out a little hot. Too hot for my taste anyway. So we're just going to drop that down. We're going to grab that, and we're going to drop that by about about 3 dB. So negative 3 dB is what we're going to drop down to. Let's play it again.
Landscape and Outer Limits Liquor present the 20K.
Yeah, that's about where I want it to be. Okay. So again, let's now we're just basically going to use our ears. I'm going to start on the low band compressor, and I'm going to work my way up and just kind of try to use your ears and see just what you think. Again, just try to understand what sounds good and what doesn't. Like, I don't want a lot of the low mids because they can make your voice sound muddy, so I'm going to probably squash them a little bit. On the higher side, I probably want my around that 5K range especially is kind of where your like some of your S's and some of your clarity starts to come through, so I'll probably boost that a little bit, and that's kind of my normal process. But for the most part, I just kind of use my ears. So let's just take a listen here. Let's go through and try to use your ears to have something that sounds pleasant to you, okay?
Summer Payday. We're writing the check September 21st. Visit greatbendpost.com for all the details. Qualify during special appearance days or register all summer long at one of these participating businesses.
All right, we're going to hit play again because it cut off.
Eagle Radio and Whole Broadcasting are trimming the money tree and giving you the chance to win $20,000 cash. Manweiler Chevrolet, Northview Nursery and Landscape, and Outer Limits Liquor.
All right, somewhere around there I think is sounded pretty good to me. Now you notice what I did here on this very right side. This is the higher frequencies. And you notice I'm going to play this again because what I did is actually I took a lot of it away. I squashed it completely, and you can definitely hear the difference in sound. It's taking away that high end. So sometimes what I'll do is I will make it sound pretty bad, and then I'll pull it back from that. Different people have different ways that they like to do this when you get into EQ and getting into shaping a sound. That's kind of a way I've found to be able to do that more effectively, is actually make it sound bad and then pull it back to where it starts to sound good or normal-ish again. I know it's not a very technical process, but let's do that again. I'll show you the different frequencies.
Present the 20K Summer Payday. We're writing the check September 21st. Visit greatbendpost.com for all the details. Qualify during special appearance days or register all summer long at one of these participating businesses. Eagle Radio and Whole Broadcasting are trimming the money tree and giving you the chance to win $20,000 cash. Manweiler Chevrolet, Northview Nursery.
There we go, and I think that sounds pretty good, and that's really all you're going to want to do. So again, try to work with that a little bit. Obviously, you saw what happened whenever I really squashed those low mid frequencies, that 100 to 1K range. When I took those away completely or compressed them and squashed them completely, it started to sound very tinny, like you were on you're listening to somebody on like a telephone, on a receiver or something like that. When you start to squash the upper range of it, obviously it's going to sound kind of muddy and unclear because you're getting rid of that higher range. It would be essentially like talking like this, right? Because you're getting rid of that stuff that brings the clarity. So again, just play around with that, get it to the point where you feel good about it, and that's all I'm going to touch on this. That's all I'm going to touch. For simplicity's sake, that's it. You can dive deeper into this, but that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to hit the apply button, and it's going to change that frequency a little bit.
And giving you the chance to win $20,000.
Or it's going to change the waveform rather a little bit. So this is kind of what we're having to work with now, okay? The other thing that I'm going to do, and I do this almost to all my voiceovers, to almost all of them, is I do what's called a hard limiter, okay? And a hard limiter, as you can see, like what we did with the compression, again, is we raised some of those valleys, we chopped down some of those peaks, but we did not chop them completely on the peak side of things. So again, looking at the waveform, this higher waveform, the louder decibel rate, that's what I'm calling a peak, okay? And then these points where there's almost nothing happening, I'm calling those valleys. I don't know. I don't know if I got that from somewhere or I just started doing that. I'm really not sure, but that's what I call them. So think about them like that. And so my friend Matt, what he likes to call this hard limiting process, he likes to call it cutting the grass or trimming the grass, right? So the grass gets a little bit longer in some places, right? And so you give a nice even trim. And I always like the way he did that. So kind of looking over here on the right side of the screen, you'll see this kind of decibel ruler type of thing, right? Right here in the middle, that's your 0 line. And then you can kind of see that counting up. So you have your numbers here and your numbers here, right? Okay. So what I like to do is I like to look at trimming the grass, as Matt calls it. I like to look about where my peaks start to kind of kind of take over, because I don't want to squash it too much because it's going to sound weird. So like, well, I'll point this out. All right, let's go through this real quick. Let's go. So we're going to go to Effects, Amplitude and Compression, and Hard Limiter is what we want right here. Okay, let's click on that. That's going to pull this thing up. We don't got to worry. I don't like to boost the input, really. Some people like to do that. I hate doing that. But basically, you're going to be working on this maximum amplitude. And that's basically, it's going to hit a ceiling right there. That's kind of the idea with this hard limiter, is nothing can go beyond that decibel point that you set it to, okay? So let's set it to something ridiculous, all right? Let's set it to -27, all right? And you're going to see what it does to this waveform, all right? Now, you don't have to worry about this. I'm going to take this little volume button and I'm going to blow it up so that you can hear it a little bit better. But here's what it sounds like when you really limit that to -27, when you're really squashing it.
And Whole Broadcasting are trimming the money tree and giving you the chance to win $20,000 cash. Manweiler Chevrolet.
It just kind of sounds like harsh and really aggressive, and you can kind of hear it kind of pumping it. You kind of hear it going, oh, kind of hear that weird pumping sound. So I don't like to do that. I think you're getting rid of, if you squash it too much, you're getting rid of basically all the dynamic range. I don't know how to say this right, but I want some dynamic range. I just want it to be controlled. Okay, so let's undo that. Control A or Command A if you're on a Mac like me. Let's get rid of those two things that we just did, maybe. Or wait, not Command A. Control Z or Command Z, sorry. Let's get rid of what we just did. And let's go back to that hard limiter. Again, Effects, Amplitude and Compression. Click on Hard Limiter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this ruler over here, this kind of decibel ruler, to find out where my peaks start to get a little too aggressive, all right? Kind of going by those lines. So up here at -6, if we follow that line over, it's going to chop this one right here a little bit. I think that's probably not quite enough. So just kind of use your eyes and use your ears again. I'm going to go down here to around -9. -9 dBs is where it's going to give that nice little trim on those peaks. So let's go and type in, not +9, -9 decibels, and it's going to apply that hard limit across that line right there, okay? And again, it's just going to give it a nice, consistent sound throughout. It's not going to be too loud in places or too quiet in other places. So let's take a listen.
Eagle Radio and Whole Broadcasting are trimming the money tree and giving you the chance to win $20,000 cash. Manweiler Chevrolet.
There we go. And that's where I like it. Let's do it right there, and that's it. That's all I'm going to do to this voiceover. So we're going to go save, Control Save or Apple Save. And that's all we're going to do for today on that. So in the next video, we're going to look at the multi-track session and about putting some music and some sound effects with this voiceover and kind of going through that process, all right? So again, you can really dive into Adobe Audition or whatever recording program you're using. There's a lot of stuff up here in effects as you kind of look through this stuff. There's de-essers, there's amplifying, there's dynamic, dynamics processing. Some of this stuff I've never even used, single band compressors. All sorts of stuff you can do, but for the most part, I found that those two things are very simple to do and very repeatable for consistency for getting a good voiceover. So hope that helped you out. Was it clear as mud? Maybe. I'm sure I got a little too in the mud on some parts, but hopefully that helps you out and gives you kind of an idea of how you can get started with shaping that voiceover and making it really pop and sparkle a little bit. So in the next video, we'll get into some more fun with multi-track, and we'll have some fun with that.